Hey everybody, welcome to our latest developers video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. That we've asked the community to provide us some of their best tips to help new players get better at playing the game. So we're going to discuss some of the tips that have been sent in to us and talk about how we as developers see those ideas, that whether it's something that we use. So my name is Christian Latour. I'm project manager here at BattleGoat Studios.
I'm George Gatesy, co-founder and lead programmer.
So before we start, I'll quickly say, of the various eras out there, do you have a favorite that you like to play when you're playing Supreme Ruler?
I'm definitely still of a World War II type, just because of the fact of the types of challenges you get, especially playing some of the major nations, and that there's always that historical element to it. So World War II is definitely my thing.
That's interesting. For me, it's definitely the modern map. It might go to the fact that when we originally started, the very first thing we did with Supreme Ruler in 2010 was a modern map, and I remember in development our Australia ruler battles, when that was all that actually functioned in the game for a while. That's always going to have a special place in my heart. But obviously for all those out there starting to play the game, you guys might be looking for, okay, where do you start and what sort of things, if you've done the tutorials and you've played through a little bit, what should you really be paying attention to? So that's sort of what we asked the community. Let's see what they've told us. So the first tip that was sent in was sent to us by Mark Carpenter. It says that if you need to construct buildings fast, make engineers so they can speed up construction. And I got to admit that that's something I often forget to do for a while, to find the engineers that I might have in inventory, because I tend to focus on building my military units. But for those out there who don't realize, if you place engineer type units, which are one of the infantry specialties, if you have engineering units and you put them in a hex where a facility is under construction, the construction will complete faster. Now, as I recall, it uses up the money and the goods faster as well. You pay the same total.
Yeah, it just makes things faster. I mean, it's interesting because in our multiplayer games, when we used to have the studio games, I used to use that a lot. And that was back when we really were trying to rush the build caps, to try to up our build caps as quickly as possible and get things going. In more recent games, I tend not to use them because I usually don't find the need to get buildings finished as quickly or build caps up as quickly. So I guess it depends on the type of game and how quickly you expect to go to war. If you are doing a multiplayer game where we're expecting to finish it in a night and we want to go to war at 8 o'clock and it's 6 o'clock, then this becomes more important.
I don't think we ever do short skirmish games. It's always one more hour.
Always one more hour, yes.
And yeah, for myself, the engineers, I also like to use them sometimes, that they have a specialty, which is not only do they accelerate building of facilities, but they are the one unit that can allow you to start construction in unsupplied territory. That at times, if you're in a particularly early map, like the 1914 era, and you're trying to expand into northern Siberia, there may be an area that is totally unsupplied, therefore the UI just won't let you start construction there. But if you get an engineer into position, they override that no supply restriction to start construction. And as I recall, they have to stay in the hex the entire time. But if you allocate an engineer there, it is the one way to expand into unsupplied territory. That's an ability that they have.
Yeah, and definitely in playing certain types of games, like in Africa or other areas where the supply is an issue, then that becomes more important. Yeah.
I seem to remember also, if you're trying to go from sort of Alaska to northern Russia, Japan, there's a number of little atoll islands, frozen islands in the north there, that by getting an engineer there, you can actually start a pier and an airfield, which can be important for bridging across. So the next tip that we've got came in from Jeff Barkauer. It says, whether politics, economics, or military, always plan ahead. I think that definitely goes to a lot of what we try and build into the game, is that our hope is that the players who are most successful are the ones who think about, okay, where's the tech tree going to take me? Where's my production going? Particularly if you're playing something like the 1936 map that you enjoy, where the commodity balance can be a real challenge. That you can find yourself, oh, I'd like to have more military goods, but I don't have enough industrial. And if I increase my industrial, I don't have enough electricity. And then when you go to increase your electricity, you find you don't have enough petroleum and coal to power that. So in terms of planning ahead, what are some of the things that you think of when we're playing games.
Well, in particular, even though in the latest update we've just made a change that makes the World War II economics a little more stable and brings the focus back on some of the military strategy. Before that change was made, you had to be particularly careful about planning out your resources in economics, because if you did stuff too quickly or in the wrong order, you were blocked and everything fell apart. So you couldn't build too many new facilities at once, because the amount of industrial goods that takes, just brings your economy down. You had to be careful about what order you built some things into. And so again, either when you're playing certain eras where the resources are restricted, or eras where you just have a limitation in the region you're playing, you have to be very careful. If you try to build 20 things at once, everything stops building because you just run out of resources. So planning things out carefully, and the same with trade too. As in the World War II era, the example is rubber. If you make some friends with the UK and set up recurring trades, you can be assured that you're going to have enough rubber. Make friends with the US, have recurring trade in oil. So again, the politics and the economics work together. Don't start fighting the people you need resources from until you at least have the stockpile of the resources you need.
Or the forces to take them over.
Or the forces to take by force that you can't by diplomacy, yes.
And along the same lines, one of the things that I'd noticed in the 1936 economy before these recent changes made it less volatile was that in playing as Sweden 1936, to really get my electricity and industrial goods under control, I had to lock my consumer goods and short my people intentionally, set production to like 4 or 5% of capacity. I never shut it down totally, because the way the engine calculations work, if you're producing zero amount, the AI cannot really evaluate for you what your cost per unit is. So I like to always be producing a trickle amount of a good, even if it's at a bit of a loss, just so that I know that it's giving me a solid evaluation of my capacity versus the market price and stuff. But yeah, so I found that to work with those economies, I had to force short my people on the consumer goods. Of course, that left me with an approval rate in the 20%, but I was able to get the facilities built that I needed.
I mean, certainly if you plan on being a citizen of one of my regions, don't expect cheap consumer goods, cheap electricity, or cheap oil.
Anything. Food. Not even food.
I'll give them food
Really?
a little, not cheap, but I mean, at least I won't charge them exorbitant rates on their food and timber, but certainly anything that I'm either short of or anything that's required for the military in its use. So petroleum and consumer goods and so on, the prices of those go way up because I want to reduce the demand, and at least people are insisting on driving their cars. They should at least pay through the nose for the privilege.
See, I'm pretty sure my government's re-election slogans all had "Let them eat cake" across the bottom. So
Let them eat cake, but not oil.
yeah, the next tip looks like a very large one, so perhaps the next comment we'll leave to the next video, because we've been on this one for a little while now. So we hope you've enjoyed some of these tips from the community and our commentary on how we see them impacting gameplay. We hope you're enjoying the games. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, find us on our Discord channel, Steam forums, our forums, and stay tuned for more videos.
See ya. Actually, I won't see you because this is a one-way thing where you see me, but I don't see you, but that's beside the point.
Except for that one stalker.
Except for the guy who hacked into the webcam and they're actually watching us.
And your post-production stuff has always been sufficient. So.
Sufficient.